Welcome to Change and Triumph. We are here with the amazing Brad Warren, who's got a wonderful story to tell about his journey. And his journey is something that I think I haven't heard often, but I have heard it from the greats, where you spend your entire 40 years as a business coach and corporate trainer. And then at 67, you decide to sell real estate?
Yeah. Yes.
So, what was the biggest misconception you had about reinventing yourself after an entire career, and how did overcoming it shape your trajectory? I mean, tell us a little bit how that happened.
Well, I guess the biggest thing today for me was my age, because at that time I was 67 years old. I had been doing speaking and training and business coaching for, 40 something years. And I just was like, am I too old to switch careers and try this? And as it turned out, the answer was no, I wasn't too old. I think it was Mark Twain or Samuel Clemens, but most of us know him as Mark Twain, said, do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain. And so
Mm.
I just confronted the fear. I said, okay, I'm just going to do it. Fortunately, I was also supported by my wife. So that's very helpful to have a good support system when you're making any kind of pivot, any kind of change. You want to make sure that you've done your due diligence, that you at least know something about what you're getting into, quite a bit about land banking, because I had been investing for several years at that point. Got my first property in 2012 and switched in 2018. So 6 years I was buying land and I was referring my friends and I was going down and looking at the land. So I was well versed in land banking from a buyer side, from an investor side. It was just a matter of now I'm going to be on the selling side. And I had quite a bit of experience from coaching and training. Yeah, I was teaching sales courses and things like that. So I just said, okay, now I'll sell dirt.
Of
So that's kind of
course.
how that happened.
Well, in 2011, when you were 67, I know there's a story in there about your wife, and this is how it all happened in 2011. What
Yes.
happened exactly in 2011?
Well, in 2011, I was actually 60. This was prior to
Wow.
switching to being a land banker. This was how did I
Okay.
even get involved in buying dirt in the first place? So
Yes.
I do a quarterly net worth statement. I've been doing it since May of 1989, and I did one March, excuse me, Jennifer. At the end of March of 1989, we were going to get married that year, so I started doing a net worth statement to see how we were doing. And on December 31st of 2011, I was about to turn 61 in January, so it was just before my 61st birthday. I realized I could not retire. My wife
Wow.
could retire. She had worked for Oracle, had done very well with her K, and she had enough money to retire. Together with my meager retirement funds and her big giant fund, we could retire together. But if I was a single guy at that point, I could not retire. And retirement was a few years away, 4 or 5 years away. I'd be 65, 66, could start getting Social Security. That would help. But it
Right.
wasn't going to be enough to maintain the lifestyle that I wanted. So I
Of
called my
course.
land banker, to Marcella Silva. She was in a networking group with me. She was working for the company that I now work for. She came to the house with her laptop in January, right around my birthday, actually, in January of 12, and did her presentation. My wife walked out, said, sorry, it's dirt. I don't understand it. I like my 401k, a 7 to 10 year time horizon to sell the land. Nope, not for me. She
Wow.
left. I turned to Marcella and said, okay, well, this is for me because I understand it. It's going to be bigger returns, but I'm trading off a little bit of time and get me a property. 2 months later, I closed on my first. A year later, my second. A year later, after that, my third. And then finally, my wife comes with me to hear Marcella do a presentation at a hotel. And I said, why are you
Okay.
coming? You already know, you've heard the presentation. She says, well, I've been watching you for 3 years now, and you seem to be pretty excited about this dirt. You even have
Hmm.
little baggies filled with the dirt from the land that you own. You went down to Southern California, you put it in the baggies, you labeled it, you brought it home. And maybe I missed something, but I'm not going to buy. The whole way in the car today, she's gone, I'm not going to, like you, like somebody once said something about timeshares. Oh, yeah, we're not going to buy. We'll just go listen to the presentation. Not going to
Right.
buy. We go, we listen to Marcella, and at the end, guess what? My wife buys. She pulls out her
Of course.
checkbook, which I didn't even know she had with her. We had gym bags in the car. We were going to go to the gym right after the presentation, but she said, "No, I want
Right.
to stay to the end and hear about the land." She bought 2 out of the 4 properties. And the whole way home in the
Wow.
car, I'm going, "I thought you weren't going to buy. I thought you weren't going to buy." She
Hmm.
says, "Shut up and drive." I get it now. I understand. So that was properties number 4 and 5. We now own 13 properties, and
Wow.
I'm now working for the company. So, a lot of change in our life, all having to do with dirt.
So you have exited, so that was 2012. Your time horizon averages 7 to 10 years. Did it actually work out the way you expected in the cycles that you expected
Not yet. To be honest with you,
since
we have
2011?
since 2012, it's now 13
Okay.
years. We
Oh,
say
right.
to people 7 to 10 on average. It could happen sooner, it could happen later. I had one of my
Yes.
clients after 4.5 years, she had bought a $750,000 property and sold it for 2 million.
Oh,
Plus, one of Marcella's clients bought 10 acres for 150,000. 6 months later, got an offer for 300,000, turned it down. By the way, we offer free negotiation coaching. So Marcella was
okay.
coaching this lady that owned the property to help her get the maximum amount. We aim for 3 to 7x.
Okay.
Well, she was at 2x. No, it's not. We can't give advice, financial advice. So we didn't tell her don't sell.
Right.
We just said that's
Right.
not a reasonable price right now. Next offer
Got
was
it.
500. We said, okay,
Mhm.
you're at 3x. We can't really coach you anymore. We can't give you advice, but that's fair market value. That's what we told her. She turned it down.
Right.
Very long
Oh,
story, very short. She turned it down several more times, finally sold, get this, $0.5 million on a $150,000 purchase in 2 years' time. By the time all
in
is said and
2
done,
years.
maybe it'll probably be 3 years by the time all the paperwork and the ink dries and the money's exchanged and everything, because we don't know exactly what if they were paying it in portions or if it was all at once. But let's say 3 years from start to
Yes.
finish, from 150,000 to 1.5 million. Now that's very good. I don't want everybody to think that's always going to happen. And with us,
That's
it hasn't happened, but people say, "Well, Brad, aren't you concerned? It's been 13 years and you haven't sold any properties." I say,
right.
I'm not concerned because first of all, it's for legacy and generational wealth. If Marie and I
Yes.
don't benefit from it, Marie's my wife, our daughter will certainly benefit from it because by the time
That's true.
we pass, she'll get the land and it will sell by then. That I'm sure of.
That's
It may just take a
yes.
little longer. But one of the properties, the first one that I bought, actually the one that's the oldest, I
Yes.
know of a person nearby me, less than half a mile away, who has the same size property at about the same price. I paid 115,000 for 1.25 acres. It's mixed use, and he's had an offer for almost $1 million. And I don't think he's
Wow.
even sold yet. He's holding out. So I'm just waiting. You have to be
Of
very patient when it comes to land.
course, of course. And one thing that I know is that owning land, the word landlord is a very old word. Very, very, very old word.
Yes.
So, in hindsight, what key element drove that initial success that you had? You were, just started becoming an agent, and you had got out there during COVID. What drove the initial success during that COVID time? Because that's such a cycle where, people would think real estate is down, but for some reason land was up and there were a lot of people buying. Isn't that correct?
Yes, and it pains me somewhat to say this, but COVID actually boosted my business. Up until that point, I had to meet people in person. So I was going to a lot of networking events. I was putting on a lot of weight. I was eating a lot of food, taking people out for lunch and dinner and breakfast, traveling, polluting by driving my car around. It was expensive to me to find new clients. I was
Of
also
course.
trying to develop my referral base, but that required me to meet mortgage consultants, CPAs, people that knew people who had money to invest. So it was
Right.
very time intensive. COVID hit, all meetings were shut down. I didn't leave my house, so I turned to Zoom. Now you
Right.
can use whatever platform. I'm not denigrating any of the other platforms. I just happened to get on Zoom. I learned how to use it, and I started going to these networking events. They were all free. And by the way, I still go to them, and I still encourage people to go to them because you meet a lot of people worldwide, and my business expanded dramatically at that point because I was meeting people all over the world. I have international investors now who I never would have met had it not been for
Wow.
Zoom and COVID. So unfortunately, COVID hit. Many people suffered quite a great deal. I, on the other hand, had the complete opposite experience of expanding my business during that time.
That is amazing, and I hear that story from a lot of people. And you said something at the very beginning about fear. Some of us sat on the sidelines and did nothing and just thought, "This is not the right time. My god, I'm in a panic." And some of us saw the opportunity and pounced on it. And I know other investors in real estate that literally pounced on that opportunity. The world is shut down, and they had no fear to go after it.
Yep. I agree
Absolutely.
100%. And it you've got to just I'm reminded of Nike, just do it. Just
Just
do
do
it.
it.
Now, do your due diligence, do your
Yes.
homework, do your
Yeah.
research, have a support network, hire a coach or get somebody to coach you. I've had coaches on and off for years. I've coached people for decades, and that was all in place, but it's all about mindset. One person
My
man's trash is another man's treasure. One woman's trash is another woman's treasure.
that is a fact.
You might look at something in your house and go, let's sell this at a garage sale. And you put it out there, you make a couple of bucks, and the person who buys it, they've been looking for that item for 5 years. They're a collector of doodads, and you just happen to have a doodad that they're missing from their collection. Wasn't worth anything to you, but to them, it completes their collection and they're ecstatic. So who knows? Who knows?
Right.
You
Right.
just sometimes you just have to leap. What is that expression? Ready, fire, aim.
Ah, ready, fire, aim. Oh, wow. Okay, I
Yes.
don't know that
Yeah.
question. Thank you
Just
for
now
telling me.
you may shoot a lot of but eventually you'll start aiming in the right place.
That is true. My goodness. So let's back up. Let's talk
Sure.
about how you got started at the very beginning. I mean, you were a PE teacher, and then you went to a global seminar speaker and then to real estate. You've navigated numerous pivots and market cycles. We were just talking about pouncing on and I don't know why the word is saying in my brain, pounce, because it's kind of like right now, I see a major opportunity. Many people are not interested in buying. And this is what traditional investors or classical investors, conservative investors usually say, okay, this is not the right time. The market isn't good. We're in a recession. No, I'm not going to take that risk. When in the times of pivots like you had, you have to move quicker. You have to take those risks. Can you tell me a little bit about those pivots that you've made and how they happened?
To be honest, today, a lot of them were, I would just call them serendipitous or luck or being in the right place at the right time. And I'll give you an example. So I go to graduate school at UC Berkeley. I get a master's in education and a pupil personnel services credential from the state of California. I wanted to be a guidance counselor in the public schools. Couldn't find a job. So when you can't find it, what do? You become a consultant. So I hung out
Of
my
course.
shingle and I started to do speaking engagements for the Women's Studies Department from the city of it was the city of Berkeley, California. The Berkeley Public Schools, their Women's Studies Department hired me to talk about sex role stereotyping in textbooks, which is what I
Mm,
wrote my my master's thesis on. I'll give you a quick example. Johnny has 20 feet of lumber and wants to build 5 birdhouses. How many feet of lumber is each birdhouse going to be? Well, it's a math problem.
yeah.
5,
No, but why
right?
Johnny? Why can't it
Well
be Sarah?
but the example in the textbook was Sarah has 20 yards of cloth. She's gonna make 5 dresses. How many yards of cloth is each dress gonna take? And those were the kind of examples. This is 1978, 79, in that era when the textbooks, which had just come out. So all the schools had these new textbooks, and they were full of these examples of stereotyped math
Yeah,
examples, you remember?
yeah,
Okay. So
yes.
I went to all of the schools in Berkeley, every single elementary school in Berkeley. There were a number of them. And I gave these talks. They were 45 minutes or an hour. They paid me, $30, 25, $30. It was something. I was making some money for an hour. And I would talk about how you, as teachers who are teaching kids, need to not be part of that. You need to break open these stereotypes and be more open. I might have been a little ahead of my time then, who knows?
Yeah.
And fortunately, Mitch Caligari from Thousand Oaks Elementary School came up to me at the end of one of my talks, and he said, this was like in May of 79. And he says, "So, Brad, what else can you do?" And I asked
Mm,
my first good consulting question. I said, "What do you need done?"
right,
And he looked at me and he said, "That's a great question. Well, we're having a lot of violence on the playground." I said, "Wait a minute. This is a kindergarten to third grade, violence on the play." He says, "Yeah, the black kids would fight with the black kids, the whites with the whites, and the Hispanics with the Hispanics. It wasn't interracial, it was
right,
intra. So each group,
right.
they were just fighting amongst themselves, and these
Mhm.
fights would spill over into the classroom and distract the teachers from teaching." And he was
Wait,
winding up,
I'll see you at 3 o'clock.
he was being a disciplinarian, not a principal. He was having to deal with, call parents and put kids on timeouts and all that. So he said, "What can you do about that?" I said, "I don't know, but can you hire me to come and do a needs analysis?" He said, "Yes." He found Emergency School Aid Act. I still remember the acronym, ESAW money. Emergency School Aid Act money was money from the federal government for desegregation purposes. So they
Mm,
hired me to do a needs analysis. I interviewed every teacher, the psychologist, the librarian, the custodian, the principal, all the staff, and any parent that walked in the door, who wrote up about, I think it was a 4-page report on a typewriter with correcto tape. That's how long ago this was. Gave him the report, didn't hear anything for a couple of months. And in August of 79, he says, "We have Emergency School Aid Act money. We can
uh,
pay you. We can pay you for a whole year. We want you to implement your report at the school, and let's
mm,
see if we can reduce the violence." And it was all about physical education, new games. This was a concept that was popular sort of in the the outside the normal way. It was games that were just to have fun, but didn't have
yeah.
scores, didn't have sides. And so I
Mm,
brought in, and I was not a PE teacher. I loved physical education classes back in high school. I played almost every sport in intramurals, and I was very fit and I knew how to play a lot of sports. So I had this book on new games. It was called New Games and the New Games Foundation. So I got all of their lessons. I made up lesson plans and I started teaching physical education in this public school. And within 1 month, we had basically reduced the violence by about 90%,
wow.
to the point where there were almost no more fights because I had the kids so busy playing sports during their morning break and the lunch recess. And I was doing 1 hour, 45 minutes per week. Every class got one 45-minute PE period, which was actually mandated by the state, which they were not meeting. So now I was
I
meeting the state mandate. And all of a sudden, the violence goes down. Other schools start calling up saying, "What are you doing there, Mitch? How come there's no more fights?" He says, "Oh, we
Oh,
got this
wow.
PE teacher." So they started to have me come to their school to teach them the games that I was using so they could use them. Then I became an adjunct professor. I was called an
Wow.
adjunct faculty member at 3 of the local colleges, and I taught
Okay.
a full day class on new games and nonviolent sports to reduce violence in the schools. And that was my first opportunity. This was probably like 1981, 82, to be a trainer. And I was
Yeah.
making more money in one day than I was in the whole week of teaching the sports. Because, by the
Right.
way, the school hired me year after year after year. I worked there for
Wow.
almost 10 years, and we had
Right.
to raise money to pay my salary because the ESOL money ran out. But anyway,
Oh,
I started my training career. So who knows? This one question that he asked me, "What
yeah.
else can you do?" And me saying, "What do you need done?" led to the PE, which led to me being a trainer, which eventually led to me working for a mediator because I was very much into mediation and resolving conflicts,
Of
and a
course.
clinical psychologist. He was a coach who wanted to get into the corporate world. So the two of them hired me. And for about 6 years, I worked for them, marketing them to the corporate world. And that
I
led to
see.
a career at Fred Pryor seminars. For 6 years, I was an international trainer traveling around the world teaching seminars. And that led to 6 years at Keller Williams as one of their coaches on their coaching team. So how these things happen today, I don't know, but I'd say a lot of it was just luck and me saying, "Yes, get on the court. Don't sit there in the stands and watch. Get on the court. Play
You
ball."
know, what's interesting is back in the early '80s, we didn't have these terms called ADHD or anxiety or any of those.
Nope.
Like you mentioned, kids just fought, and then as long as you could keep them busy in
Yeah.
PE class, and
Right.
game, then, you get the nervous energy out because children are supposed to play and have fun
That's
and jump and breathe air.
exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
My goodness. So, what mindset has consistently showed you how to transform disruption into opportunity? Because that's what you've done.
Wow, what a great question. When it comes to mindset, I've been very fortunate. I've taken a lot of classes. I've seen Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, Wayne Dyer, you name them, Roger Dawson for negotiation skills. I was listening
Wow.
to audio tapes. It wasn't CDs yet. Audio tapes
That's
as
right.
part of my Fred Pryor
Right.
training. We had to study these guys. We were selling their stuff at the back of the room. It's called back of the
Hmm.
room sales. And so we would
Yes.
weave them into the stories that we would tell and use examples. So I had to study all that stuff. So I took a speed reading course from Fred Pryor seminars. I actually was a participant, took the speed reading course because they'd give us these manuals to train. They were 300 pages long, and we had to learn all that material before we could go on stage to teach it. So I had to do that
That's
fast. So I was
right.
getting incredible Harv Eker with Peak Potentials. I did
Harvey.
almost every course. I did the S training. I did Landmark.
Mm,
I've spent tens of thousands. I don't think it's hundreds of thousands, but tens of thousands of dollars on courses to help me work with the 6 inches between my two ears, because that's the
yes.
most important real estate in the world.
Isn't it?
How you think is going to determine everything. Mike Dooley, he says, thoughts become things.
Yes.
What you think about all day long is who you become. And if you're
Yes.
thinking crappy thoughts, you're going to be a crappy person and you're going to have
Ab-
crappy finances and crappy relationships.
Absolutely.
So I would say that one thing over and plus I've stayed friends for 40 plus years with a lot of people I met from those trainings. I'm still in
Of
touch with them,
course.
mostly on Zoom now. We
Of
have
course.
meetings every month. My men's group. It's been around for 40, almost 1982. So however many
Wow.
years that is. 43 years we've known each other. And now we're still meeting on Zoom once a month just to get together and chit chat. And how are you doing? Mostly now it's organ recitals. Oh, my stomach. Oh, my bladder, my prostate. We have organ recitals because we're all in our 70s and 80s now. So we have an organ recital, but we still love each other. We still get together. And that's the importance of friendships and relationships.
It is. It is. And I just got through having this conversation with my niece, and I literally just, my niece is 26 and my daughter is 20 now. And I've had the similar conversation with them. Hey, if you want to change your life, you've got to start networking, going to conferences. There's this thing out there now called meetup.com. You can go and find people. You look at what I do. I go to probably 6 to 12 conferences a year, and you are absolutely right. My life has changed as a result of that personal development in career and personal development in, just, your own personal life, learning how to think differently. I'll never forget, I was 27 and I went to, you mentioned T. Harv Eker. He changed my life, definitely. Secrets of a
Yep.
Millionaire Mind.
Right.
I
Yep.
Yes, that's
I
one of
still,
my favorite.
just before, not to interrupt your story, but I got to bring this out. I know some people might be watching this, but if they can see, this is a millionaire. I have a millionaire mind. It's a bracelet I
Yes.
got in
Oh,
2005, 20 years ago
wonderful.
when I did that class. I still wear it to this day.
Every time I pass a coin on the street, T. Harv Eker comes back, and I
Ah,
go,
yes,
"I'm, what is it? Now I
I am a money magnet.
get it."
I am a money magnet. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
At the airport,
Every
I'm
every time.
renowned at
Yes,
airports. I always find dimes, quarters, nickels, pennies, and I pick them up. My
yes.
wife is like, oh, she gets embarrassed.
I'm
I
a
pick up
money
a penny.
magnet. Oh,
I am a money
boy.
magnet. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Put it in my pocket. Yep. Oh God, that's
Absolutely.
so funny. I didn't know that about you. T Harv.
Yes, and
Yeah.
another T. Harv Eker thing that stuck with me forever. If you want to be a baker, go work at a baker. No, if you want to open a bakery, go work at a bakery first. Do you remember that part of the book?
No.
It was specific. This has stuck with me, and I know it was that book, and it was really about, like, for instance, you told the story about how you were already a real estate investor for a number of years. You already knew about investing in real estate, And then when you were presented with this job, you were already prepared. This is not new information. So you already, you dabbled in it first, and that was the premise of the story. Echo. Okay, so we will go ahead to the next thing. When someone is paralyzed by fear, what is the very first actionable step you recommend they take to regain momentum?
Well, did I give the quote from Twain about do the thing you fear and the death of fear is certain?
You did
So do something.
take action.
Mike Dooley says baby steps. If you're totally paralyzed, let's say it's public speaking and you're just terrified to death, but you know you've got to do it to make your business grow. What's the first thing that you could do? Practice in front of a mirror. Practice in front of one friend, then two friends, then five friends. Just do something, one little baby step that takes you onto that path. And then the
Wow.
next step will become more apparent. And then the next step after that will become more apparent. But if you're paralyzed by the fear, then you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to, then your mind starts. Mind friction is what Harv used to call it, mind frick. And that
Right.
little voice is very powerful and it will take over and it will stop you dead in your tracks. So you've got to just say, one of the things, Harv, this is again from Harv, thank you for sharing, mind. Thank you for sharing that thought, Brad. That was a stupid thought. I don't like that thought. I'm not going to think that thought anymore. Okay, goodbye, thought. Now, make sure you're alone when you're doing this. Don't do it out loud in
Right.
a restaurant because people think you're crazy.
Of
Do it in your
course.
car. That's okay with the window shut. But you could
Right.
cancel, cancel, cancel. If
Cancel, cancel, cancel.
you
I
say
know that
something
one.
negative, yeah, you say something negative about yourself, you go, cancel, cancel, cancel. I did not mean to say that
Right.
about myself. I am not
That's right.
afraid. And
That's
what is
right.
it? Fear and no, no, that's not fear. That's excitement. When you think
That's
about it, today, the
it's true.
same physiological things that happen to your body when you're fearful happen to you when you're excited. Your eyes
That
dilate, your pupils dilate, you start to sweat a little, your palms get a little sweaty, your breathing your heart starts palpitating. Same thing when you're afraid as when you're excited. Well, hello,
absolutely.
don't call it fear. I'm feeling all these feelings. I must be excited about something.
That's true. I read somewhere or saw it on TV where someone that nervous energy you get in fear, take that and like you're saying, just make that your sign that you have to move forward, not the sign not
Yes.
to move forward.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Totally agree.
So I I see you love personal development and you even contributed a chapter on time management alongside Stephen Covey and Ken Blanchard. That's amazing in the free Blueprint for Success ebook. Is that right?
I think I have it as an ebook. I still have some hard copies. If any of your listeners are interested in getting one, let me know. But yeah, I wrote that chapter. And here's another example. That chapter, I then was challenged by my coach to take that 20-page, 22-page chapter, and I turned it into a
Yes.
book. And I wrote a
Perfect.
full book called Just Sold:
Beautiful.
The Real Estate Professional's Guide to Selling More in Less Time. And it's all about, I don't even call it time management because I realized today you can't manage time.
That's
There's no way
true.
to manage time by itself. If I said today, here's 20 minutes, please manage it. You can't manage it. But what you do, here's what I say: what you manage are promises and commitments that you make to yourself or another
Mm,
to do something, to take some activity within the time frame. So if I said, here, manage this 20 minutes, you can't manage the time, but you say, okay, for 5 minutes, we're going to do introductions. For 5 minutes after that, we're going to spotlight one person. And then the remaining 10 minutes is for Q&A. That's managing the activities that will take place within the 20 minutes. It's not really managing the time per se. So I wrote this whole
wow.
book. There's one section on planning a week at a time. There's another one about delegating, which can be a huge time saver, especially in the real estate world. But the whole book is it's focused on real estate agents, but all you have to do is substitute real estate agent with any self-employed person will get value out of the book itself. And that's an ebook. And I will make available for free. Here's a bonus.
That's
I'm making this up right now. Any of your listeners that get a hold of
okay.
me, they just have to email Brad at bradwarren.com. and say,
Okay.
they got to tell me where they heard about it. So they have to
On
say, I heard you on Tanae's. Say it again.
they've heard it right here on Change and Triumph with Tanae Williams.
Yes, they put that in the subject line, say, I'd like your free ebook. I will email them. Don't text me. I'm not good at texting. At 74 years old, I'm technologically challenged, as my millennial daughter calls me. So just email brad@bradwarren.com. Tell me where you heard about it and say you want the free ebook called Just Sold. That's all you got to put, and I'll send you a free book. And that book by itself, I declare, can make a huge difference if you're a self-employed person. Doesn't work quite as well if you have a boss who manages you and tells you what to do and all that. It's more for self-employed people who have more control over their time and their day and their schedule. But there's a
Okay.
lot of really good stuff in there. If I do, I'm sort of biased, and I think I wrote a really good book. So
Of course you wrote a good book. I can't wait to read it myself. So, you're also a certified one thing trainer. So, what's the one question you challenge every new land banking investor to ask before they make their first purchase?
hold on to that question. I'm going to back up and say, yes, I got certified as a one thing
Okay.
trainer, taught the one thing workshop. And the one question that's in that book, and but this is by Gary Keller, the co-founder of Keller Williams Real Estate, and it's
Wonderful.
the book is called The One Thing. And the main question is in there is, what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary?
Okay.
So when I was coaching people, I'd say, what's the one thing you could do about door knocking such that by doing it, everything else is easier or unnecessary? What's the one thing about marketing yourself that you could do? And so by asking that question, it forces people to stop thinking of all the myriad possibilities. And I could Facebook ads, and I could do TikTok, and I could go over here and do
Right.
postcards, and I could write a newsletter, and I could blog. And no, no. What's the
The one
one thing that you could do such that doing it would make everything else easier or unnecessary? And that helped so many of my clients.
Mhm.
In the world of real estate, I don't ask that question. So I'm not coaching really anymore, even though I sort of semi coach people because that's just who I am. I'm a coach for life. But when it comes to investing of any kind, whether it's land, multifamily, like what you do, single family residence, and then renting it out, buying, do your due diligence. The
Yes.
biggest mistake I've made in real estate, and where I've lost most of my money when I've lost money, is by
Okay.
not doing my due diligence, not
That's important.
researching, not looking into the trends. What's happening worldwide? What's happening in this country? What's happening in my own community? Where are people moving? Where are the renters going? You don't want to buy an apartment building in an area where people are leaving town. You're going to have
Yeah.
vacancies, and you ain't going to make any money. You're not going to have cash flow. And then you're going to go
Right.
bankrupt, or something like that.
I
Maybe not that
I've
serious.
gone through trial and error myself. I mean, I learned the difference between landlord-friendly states and not so landlord-friendly
Not so
states.
friendly, right?
I've learned that there's something called a 20-year plan, and so that 20-year plan, every city planner has. So, I wonder, in your journey, is that something when you're looking in the path of development that is part of due diligence?
You hit the nail on the head. The reason I liked the company that I'm now with so much is because they do the due diligence. I don't have
Mhm.
to do it. They have an
Nice.
it's called Research and Acquisition Department. It's a whole
Okay.
staff of people. And all they're doing right now while you and I are recording this podcast, all they're doing now is looking at land in the area where we invest, which is in Southern California within a 60-mile radius of downtown LA. We're not in
Oh.
any other state or any other place, 60 miles of downtown LA. And all they do is look at dirt all day long to try to
Hmm.
figure out, where is the path of growth going. We want to buy
Mm.
land that's in that path. And they do it
Right.
by a number of ways, one of which is the general plan. They
Right.
read the entire general plan. They go to the city council meetings when they make
Right.
amendments to the general plan. If they're switching direction, or if they're rezoning an area from commercial to mixed use, hell yeah, you want to get some of that land before it's mixed use, because the price is going to go way up when it's mixed use land compared to
Got it.
commercial or even residential or whatever. So follow the money, follow the development. One concrete people say, well, Brad, give me a more specific example. So one of the things our company found out was that the city of Lancaster and Palmdale put $180 million into widening the off ramps on 5 of the exits off of Highway 14. Now you got to ask
Okay.
yourself, why are they doing that?
Hmm.
Why is the city spending its own money to widen the off ramps? Well, duh.
There
They're going
needs
to
to
build stuff at those off ramps, at those exits. They're going to put gas stations on the 4 corners with a mini mart. Oh, and what'll be next to that? Maybe some commercial development and then some residential development a little further. So we start looking right around those 5 exits to see what land we can scoop up before everybody else gets there. That's following the money.
That's interesting. But I would be concerned about eminent domain if you bought right next to the freeway. Because the city, do they still do that? Take the property like because from what I understand, there's a such thing called eminent domain where the city or state can say, "Hey, this is ours," and they don't have to pay for it
It
because we need
happens
to buy land.
very infrequently. It's
Mm,
never happened in Lancaster and Palmdale. Just to back up, so one of the things we have something called the 10 growth factors. There's 10 growth
okay,
factors happening in the Lancaster Palmdale area in Southern California that we believe are contributing to gigantic economic growth. One of those
okay.
10, business friendly city government. If you have a
Mm,
city government that's not business friendly, in other words, high taxes,
yes.
eminent domain where they're stealing land, you think any
Right.
developer in their right mind is going to want to buy land in that city if they know the city can come in and say, we like your land. We need it for this project. We're taking it and we're not going to pay you a penny, or we're going to pay you.
Yeah.
I think you have to pay fair market value, which of course they're going to make a lowball offer on. So no,
Oh, right.
you want to find a
Anytime
place.
you see the best value of land, it's always not what it actually the market value,
Exactly.
usually. Yeah,
Usually starts very low. So you
yeah.
want business friendly city government as one of the 10 growth factors. And right now, where we invest, all 10 are happening at the same time. I can't go into all 10 of them, but that's, you just triggered in my mind that one thought. Follow the money, do your due diligence. In the case of us, we do the due diligence for our investors. And so when they buy, they are reasonably assured. I can't use the word guaranteed. That's not allowed in the real estate world. It's to say guaranteed, but they are
No, such
reasonably assured that this land is in the path of growth. We give them a lot of evidence to prove that. And so they're much more confident that, yes, eventually this land is going to increase in value and will be sold to a developer who needs it to build a big project.
we're recording this episode of Change and Triumph to spotlight journeys of transformation. And the one thing I hear you talking about in this area where you sell land and you're excited about it, we heard earlier that it's been 13 years. And even though you have this confidence today, you're still on this journey. 13, your idea of 7 to 10 years, it was an okay hold for 7 to 10 years, and now you're at 13 years and you go, "You know what? It's a legacy play no matter what." You still have your wife's retirement. So your initial thought 10 years, 13 years ago was this is not enough on my wife's salary. But you now are selling land. So you're still retiring. You're still retirement isn't even a part of your vocabulary. I noticed. It's
Yeah,
like
I don't know what that word means.
I don't even know why they ever we're not in the time where our parents had this idea of retirement, sit on the beach, retire with your pension. We're in a constant time of transformation. And so it seems as if I think also for me myself, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners, that word should be changed. What new word should we change retirement to?
Life in your elder years, fun and vacations. I mean, just to back up for a second, though, Tanae, you made a good point about making sure. Well, the point that I want to make after I heard what you said is yes, I was counting on the land in that 7 to 10 years. I was hoping that there would be
Yes.
some sales out of some of those properties, and it hasn't happened. And I'm not
Right.
concerned because I don't put all my eggs in one basket. That's another
Mm,
major tenet of investing. Just I don't want all of your money to go into land. In fact, I won't let you put all your money in land. I want to make sure you've got other vehicles. some flips,
Yes.
some short term. I've done very well in the stock market with one major stock. One stock comprises
Mhm.
90% of my portfolio. My wife,
Wow.
my wife, and big chunk. I'm not going to go into the
I'm pretty
numbers.
well, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't Qualcomm, if you bought Qualcomm early.
Well, it was Nvidia.
NVIDIA was an amazing play. You know
I
what?
bought it.
I was on that play and I sold it. If I sold it, I wanna kick myself.
I
But I
bought 50. I bought 50 shares at $21 several years ago. When it
congratulate
split, it went up to like 400, and then it split 4 for 1. So
yes,
now the price dropped to $100, but now I had 200 shares. It split again 10 to 1.
yes.
I own two
Nice.
2,000 shares, and currently today it's around 170. So do the math. That's one stock. I got very, very, very lucky on that. I have others, but that one. And my wife, who again, she was the turtle. I'm the hare. I like to, jumping all around, hippity hop to thing. And but she was slow and steady wins the race. So she kept buying Oracle stock at a discount through the
Of
employee
course.
stock ownership program. By the way, anybody that is an employee that's listening to this, if you've got a 401k, max it out. Get all that free money from your employer. Every
Definite.
single penny you can into your 401k and let it gradually grow over time. As long as you've got 20, 30, 40 years, it will if you make some good investments. My wife has an MBA in finance, so she did her own investing, didn't let and did very well. And that stock, I don't want to tell you how much that stock's worth. Let's just say between hers and mine, we're like over $1 million between just those two.
You're
Now,
you're
it's all
okay.
on
You're okay.
paper. We haven't sold it yet, but if we need money, we sell some of that. So we don't need to sell the land. That's why I'm not concerned. If it's another 10 years, it's another 10 years, but it's going to sell at some point. We'll make very good money. And if we don't spend it all, which we're going to plan on doing, but if we don't spend it all, our daughter will get a big, big chunk of it. We
That's
don't tell her how
wonderful.
much because we don't want her to be an entitled Gen Xer. We want her out working and earning her own way, but she knows that we have quite a bit of investments and it's diversified. We have very conservative I bonds, I savings, Series I savings bonds from the United States
Yes,
government. We bought them at
yes.
10%. We got them and they were
Wow.
very high, like at 10%. So we'll double our
Yes,
money in what, 7 years? It'll take
yes.
7 or 8 years to double that money. So, very conservative to, pretty far out and everything in between.
And everything in that is the perfect, 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 perfect ending to this wonderful podcast today. And I'm so glad that you took the time to meet with me. And I want you to tell our audience as a signing off exactly as you share your story today, what one overarching theme about embracing change and building enduring wealth do you most want listeners to remember?
That's tough. One thing I would say, buy low, sell high. Kind of any kind of investing. Pretty much everything we've been talking about today, due diligence, having a good supportive network, getting over your fear. When I took these steps, it doesn't mean I wasn't afraid. I was still afraid, but I didn't let
Absolutely.
that paralyze me. I used
Right.
it to actually fuel me to get into action. So just get out there, people. It is a changing world. It's changing faster and fast. The speed of change has sped up. So things are
Yes.
happening. Who would have known, 5 years, look at telephones, look at the phones that we had just 5 years ago. In
I
5
know.
short years, look at the
Yeah.
computer that you have in your hand on your phone is miles and light years beyond what existed 10 or 15 years ago. And
Oh,
now it's
yeah.
changing even
Flip
faster.
phone.
Look at the
I know.
IA, the artificial intelligence, AI. I always do it the opposite. Artificial intelligence. Who knows where that's going? But that is making millionaires out of countless number of people who are doing
Well,
their
you
due
have a big
diligence.
rock behind it, NVIDIA, so
Yeah, yeah,
hello.
but there's other ones too. You
There
just got to
are.
be very careful. You just have to be
Yeah.
careful. Yeah, and again, can I say one more thing?
Please.
And here's how you out there in television land or podcast land, I do
Okay.
pay referral fees. You don't have to be a real estate agent to accept them. We call them a marketing consultation fee or a finder's
Mhm.
fee. And it's if you send an investor to me, you can earn a referral fee. So please, if you want to get a hold of me and find out more about that, just brad@bradwarren.com. I'll send you the free ebook, but you can also find out about my referral program. And that way you can make a little money and then use that money to go invest.
Awesome. You know what? We will have all of that information in the show notes, all of your social media, your website. We took a look at a wonderful webinar that you also provide. So all of those links will be in the show notes. And I think that the one thing you told us is to diversify. That's
Absolutely.
it. Because you had one plan that didn't work, you did another plan that didn't.
And then
Uh, and somehow one of those things popped, and you didn't know which one it was. No one knows that NVIDIA was going to split all of those times. No one knows which exact land, no matter how much you studied and did due diligence, which exact thing is going to, pop off. And you don't put all your eggs in one basket, and you move with the times. You pivot when you have to pivot. Eat
yes.
that fear, and I think that's what we learned today. Thank you so much, Brad.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much. And good luck to all of your listeners out there. And good luck to you as well. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Awesome.